You're cordially invited to celebrate the birth of Sean Combs.
They are saying that Oprah Winfrey and Diddy, they go way back. They are very close friends, and they are even saying that she has something to do with the Diddy parties.
You were cordially invited to celebrate the birth of P. Diddy, Sean P. Diddy, Puff Pastry Combs.
My birthday, I'm happy that y'all give me this call. Thank you very much. I love y'all.
Love you more. Can't wait to see you in a couple of days.
HR puffing up. Sean King puffing.
The video that was posted on YouTube with the title "Arrest Warrants for Diddy's Associates in Hollywood Are Revealed" by Joe Rogan went viral, capturing the attention of those who would not have clicked on such an attention-grabbing title.
1,000 bottles of baby oil. What surprised you the most about what you read yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, that, Brian, was was definitely an alarming graph of the indictment when you read that when they raided, I believe it was the Miami home, where they found 1,000 bottles of, and they said that these were items that were used at the freak-offs. There were also large amounts of drugs, they said. So, you know, they said that the house, according to the feds, that was stocked for these parties that were going on. And then to read their description of how Diddy, as they say, lured women into joining these parties. And they say that he would meet them or lure them, get to know them, and lure them in thinking they would think that there was going to be a romantic relationship with him. And then it would turn out that they would be at these freak where they would be forced to have or drugged and with male prostitutes that he was bringing in. And that's one of the counts that he's facing also, is the transportation of individuals for a purpose of prostitution. So really alarming allegations laid out in court. Diddy, of course, has pled not guilty to all of it. And then the real kicker for him at the end of the day was that the judge said you will be held without bail. And that means however long it takes for this trial to begin, he will be in a federal detention facility in Brooklyn, and not a very nice one. In fact, a fairly notorious one. So you got to figure it. He wants out of there, and he wants out as soon as possible.
We're in this era right now, Charles, of men with power falling from grace in Hollywood. And when I think about Harvey Weinstein, you know, that was an open secret in Hollywood for a very long time about what he was doing with victims. Was this also the case with what kind of knew this was going on?
I will say this: there were always been whispers about his power and how he wielded that power. But I can't say I heard any whispers about these freaks, and it's really alarming. You know, we were talking about it yesterday. One, these parties had a lot of individuals. In fact, the U.S. Attorney's Office says that the parties would sometimes go on for days. So there are a lot of individuals involved, and yet, and they say this has been going on for more than 10 years, and yet we didn't hear about that. So that means that all the people that were involved, according to the feds, that he managed to keep them all quiet, that nobody would speak about it. And that does sort of speak to the kind of power he wielded and the fear that people had of him. We're also talking about the fact that the beating of Cassie, which was captured on the hotel surveillance video, that was 6 years ago. And
as alleged, when
nobody knew about it. Nobody heard about it. Think about all the people that were at the hotel who may have known about it, people who saw the surveillance video and never spoke about it. And like you said, we're in an era where when things like that happen, people speak out about it. So the fact that no one did, that it only took this, really Cassie's lawsuit before any of this started coming out, it does kind of speak to the power that he wielded, and that the fact that nobody wanted to cross him.
And Charles, what do you think happens next in this case? Members of Sean Combs' family have been ordered to give up their passports. He's currently in jail. What do you think happens from here?
Well, his attorneys, the first thing that's going to happen is today, his attorneys are going back into court. They've appealed the bail ruling. And like I said, I'm sure he wants out, and that's their first job right now, is to get him out. They've offered a $50 million package for bail. That was rejected yesterday, but they're going to take another swing at it today.
The video, which featured prominent celebrity names, a touch of scandal, and a dash of conspiracy, immediately went viral. This was a well-deserved response, as it garnered over 1 million views in a week, a plethora of likes, and a deluge of comments from individuals who were eager to ascertain which Hollywood figures were involved in the situation. However, as the views accumulated, something seemed to be amiss.
Look, he did surrender his passport to his lawyer, who should say the way his team put it out originally, they made it sound like he had turned it over to the authorities. He had turned over his passport back in April to his lawyer, as did his children and his mother. And their point was they wanted to make the case to the court that, look, we're cooperating here. He is not a flight risk. And they feel like the U.S. Attorney's Office undermined that by raiding his hotel on Monday night and arresting him when they say he was in New York because he was more than willing to surrender. In fact, the plan was for him to surrender on Tuesday, and then for some reason the feds decided to arrest him Monday night. Diddy's attorneys think they did that so that it would look like he wasn't cooperating, and then the judge would deny him bail, which, as it turns out, is what happened.
Well, Charles, thank you so much for your thoughts on this morning. You guys always have so much information behind the scenes there. It is 7:13 a.m. in Los Angeles. Thanks for waking up early with us.
Absolutely. We're up.
Given the gravity of the allegations, one would anticipate that news outlets would provide coverage. However, this is where the situation becomes problematic.
Just testified before a federal grand jury. He says he was in possession of a trove of digital evidence from Diddy's freak-offs parties. His name is Courtney Burgess, and he says a friend gave him 11 flash drives that belonged to the late Kim Porter. And if you follow this story, you'll know that Kim Porter is Diddy's ex-girlfriend and the mother of 4 of his kids. On those drives, the witness says 8 videos featured 8 celebrities at Diddy freak-offs or parties, and that 6 were males, 2 were females. The drive also included a manuscript of an alleged Kim Porter memoir, a memoir that her 4 kids insist is fake. Courtney Burgess told his story on a podcast before he told the grand jury today, and after he told the grand jury, and I mean immediately after, he booked it over to my set, and he and his attorney talked to me. I should tell you that he was very limited in how much detail he could go into about his testimony. And because the 8 people in the videos, the 8 celebrities in the videos were allegedly victims, we know who they are, but we will not be naming them, famous or not. Here now is my conversation with Courtney Burgess and Ariel Mitchell, who's his attorney, beginning with the question of whether the participants in the video even knew they were being recorded. Were there any cameras in places where you'd assume privacy, like bathrooms?
Yeah, well, I've never been in this house, but the picture, yes. That's what it took.
This video was not exactly as it appeared. In fact, it was not based on any truth at all. Rather, it was merely conjecture that had become out of control. Let us examine the video more closely to ascertain the actual situation.
Surreptitious cameras that were recording in private places like the
I didn't see the cameras. You could tell how that person was angled. I knew that it was a camera there because I was there. I wasn't there. I don't know if the person was too tall, he was holding it or whatever, but I wasn't there.
May I ask you this, Courtney, and Ariel, you can jump in on this as well, but I want to hear from Courtney first. Your home was raided by federal authorities, and I assume it is because of this material. Is that true?
I wouldn't say that. They just went to every one of them looking for me. They said, the paperwork said the 24th, that I had to be there the 28th, and then it was the 27th. I can't make it there, that's tomorrow. So I don't know. From the look of it, it was 4 days.
And I want to be specific. When we talk about a raid, we're talking about when a subpoena is served for documents, a search warrant or an arrest warrant. In this situation, Mr. Burgess was not in any way, shape, or form had a search warrant or an arrest warrant issued for him. It was just them serving a subpoena. So when the federal government needs to serve a subpoena, they use the Marshal Service to come to all of your residences if you have more than one residence. So in this situation, they sent marshals to all of Mr. Burgess's residences, and that was somehow construed or understood or turned into a raid, but he did not face a raid. It was just to serve him a subpoena.
Ariel, do you believe that the subpoenas were issued and executed based on the federal authorities' knowledge that these flash drives existed and had this kind of compromising material?
I think it was based on statements that Mr. Burgess made in a prior interview.
And those statements include descriptions of what the witness says he saw on those tapes. So I asked him about that.
He should commence by addressing the video itself. Joe Rogan initiated his podcast by discussing Diddy's most recent legal troubles. Subsequently, he exacerbated the situation by intercutting news segments regarding Diddy's arrest, legal issues, and the search warrants that were executed at his properties. The video was so well produced that it appeared to be very authentic.
Good, given the limitations imposed on him after testifying before the grand jury. Out of those 8 videos, 8 celebrities, 6 men and 2 women, how many of those 8 celebrities were close to being underage or potentially underage?
2 males.
2 males. And of those 8 celebrities, how many of them were intoxicated or under the influence of drugs?
This is going to be all speculation. I just want to preface it by he wouldn't know if they were. Right.
Sure.
Appeared to
Let
be
me rephrase
right,
it.
Based on, yes.
Understand. Out of the 8 celebrities who were recorded having intimate relations with Sean Combs, how many of them appear to be either inebriated or intoxicated or under the influence?
All of them. All of them.
Out of those 8, how many appear to be potentially victimized? How many might have been victimizing?
I think all, to be honest, all.
Were victims
They
or
victims.
were perpetrating?
Victims.
They were all 8 were victimized.
Yeah.
Meaning this was happening to them and they were inebriated.
Right. Not knowing, I guess, how much proof it was in it of what they was doing.
And of those 8, how many seemed to be potentially minors?
2 to 3, possibly 3.
2 to 3. Also on the flash drives, Courtney, was what looked to be a manuscript written by, it appears to be a woman who had taken Kim Porter's private journals and had written a book. Is that accurate?
We don't know.
I don't know
how. Yeah.
I don't know how, who wrote it, put it together, but it was from her when I spoke to her.
Additionally, they included excerpts from press conferences with Diddy's attorneys. Despite the fact that federal prosecutors and legal representatives employed a carefully curated combination of authentic information to create the impression that a significant event was imminent, there was never any discussion of arrest warrants for other celebrities.
Received on the flash drives, was it the completed book or was it notes from Kim Porter that later were made into a book?
It was completed. It's only 60,
Okay.
only about 54 pages.
Sure, and in the beginning it says, Kim made me promise that if something happened to her, I would make sure this book became public to the world. The way Sean moved, I knew that was a promise I would have to fulfill. Kim knew I was a woman of my word, and this book was going to make it to print. So it sounds like it is a woman who wrote up the notes from Kim Porter. Does that sound accurate?
It's how you read it, yes. I haven't even read the book.
Do you know who the woman is?
No.
And to be clear, he received it in its complete form. So I think just to make sure we have some clarity here,
Yeah.
the manuscript that Mr. Burgess received was already in its complete form. It's not that he edited it or changed anything.
Got it.
He did give it to someone
Makes
else
sense.
who then edited it, but that's not how he received it.
Okay, so Ariel, did your client Courtney receive the book from the woman who seems to have written it, saying, "I'm a woman of my word, and this book is going to make it to print"?
I don't know if he received it from a man or a woman. He can answer that.
I received it from a man. I tell you, somebody she was dating.
Do you know if the notes from the book really were from Kim Porter?
It was, yes, because I spoke to her probably like 6 hours before I received it.
You spoke to Kim Porter?
Yes.
So Kim Porter.
Just saying hi. Just saying hi.
Okay, Ariel, go ahead and give me clarity on the timeline.
No, I'm trying to get him to provide clarity of, was there a conversation with
No,
her?
I was talking to the person and he said, "Hold up, this is Courtney, be right here. Let me say something to him." He said, "I know him, put me on speaker." Then that's how we end up speaking.
And then later, somebody else came and brought you the manuscript.
The individual who created this video was fully aware of the purpose of the thumbnail, which featured images of Joe Rogan and Jennifer Lopez appearing to be in handcuffs as federal agents led them away. Of course, the images were heavily photoshopped, and it is possible that artificial intelligence was employed to create the illusion of them being in handcuffs. Nevertheless, viewers were unable to resist clicking on the thumbnail. A single view of the thumbnail.
Before I left ATL.
To the best of your knowledge, Courtney, do you believe that the manuscript is truly based on Kim Porter's diaries? Because there is a lot of dialogue in there. It is pages and pages of actual dialogue, which, I mean, I can't remember breakfast today, let alone dialogue from 5, 10, 15, and 20 years ago.
I guess this is a woman's scar. You understand? Maybe, what she been through. It's, I'm not a woman, so I'm just going by how I got female friends and relatives. They always come to the house scoring because what went on in their relationship. And when you're scoring, you can't forget it.
Important to stop down here for a moment and note again that Sean Combs is accused. He has not been convicted of any crimes. And so far, everything against him is an allegation until it is proven in a court of law and a jury either decides or he decides to sign a plea deal to any of these crimes. But at this point in the story, Sean Combs is not guilty of any crimes. He is currently under indictment. He is currently being held on bail. But if you're at all curious about how Courtney Burgess feels about Diddy today, I asked him about that too. And here's what he had to say. Your lawyer just said, the story the tapes tell are the story of Diddy from the last several decades. And I know that you've known Diddy for a very long time. Can you describe what that story is based on what you now know to be true, the last several decades of Diddy's behavior and the reason he's now sitting in lockup?
I think I've been doing it for 35 years. I think we probably entered music business at the same time. He entered with Uptown, I entered into Big Beat, Atlantic. At the time, I guess he was ambitious. He was then from ambitious went to doing anything. And then from doing anything to didn't care about nobody, who he could be. And then he ended up turning to Lucifer today. I look at him, I know y'all call him Diddy or Puff, y'all call him.
Consequently, the reason why a significant number of individuals believe this to be accurate is due to the profound fascination that many of us have with covert dramas and scandals. The notion that affluent celebrities are covertly engaged in an illicit activity makes for an engrossing plot.
Lee said she would pay off someone to basically testify in her behalf in millions. So what do you think that does to this case, if anything?
Okay, now that was for a different case.
For
it's
the
not
civil
for the federal
case.
case. It's
Right.
for a civil case.
Right.
She's
But
suing
still.
him for money for rape and for distributing a tape of them raping her. It could do a couple of things. I think it affects her credibility.
Yeah.
I also think it affects the credibility of all people who are brought out, because one of the refrains by his defense has been that, these people these are meritless claims. So that is a problem. But I can also say this. She may have been telling, and this was her ex-boyfriend, boyfriend at the time, that I'll pay you to testify, and basically $3 million. He might be reluctant to testify,
right?
Because he's afraid of what repercussions might come, not only from Diddy and his entourage, but also from Diddy supporters. We know that they've come out and been very vocal in favor of Diddy. So, though that money could be for him to come in and testify and get over his fear of testifying.
But I also think the timing is something else, because that kind of message getting out there when you have a trial for criminal charges in federal court also says to people, hey, you can't believe what these victims are saying. They're making stuff up against
agree.
me.
You've got things on both sides. Remember when they released that beating video?
Yes, the
his
one that they're
attorneys-
saying leaked.
Diddy's attorneys are claiming that the government leaked that to turn the tide against him. They may have had a hand in releasing this information to sort of, turn the tide back for him. So
Exactly.
it's a lot of games being
There's
played.
a lot of stuff coming up.
But here's the thing. This is front page news, with every credible news outlet covering it from every angle. Yet, as of right now, not a single reliable source has verified any of these claims. If there were actual arrest warrants issued for Hollywood elites, the news wouldn't just appear on one random YouTube channel. It would spread across all major media outlets.